What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner, and you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. This is episode 2 of the final season of the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football expert, Josh Schaefer, our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain, and I am your host for the evening, Blake Harris. How's our Monday night going, boys? We're missing The Bachelor to be here, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll watch it tomorrow, but how's our Monday?
That's okay, Ho-Herd. We can watch it another day. You know, we're doing. It's been a long day working in Cronkite News, but Lyle and I produced like 7 stories today.
That Blake,
you know, we were really active on social media, not tweeting, just, you know, being on it. I think I pretty much anchored the news today. Pretty much by myself. It was a very good day in Cronkite News.
Let's see, 6 video packages, 4 written stories, an anchored show. That was just all in the morning.
Yeah, that was all before 11.
And then only took like a 10-minute lunch and pumped out about 10 more stories, if that seems about right. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I slept until about noon. It was a great day. Great day. Had a long weekend of work, but hey, that happens to us all, except for Blake.
So for those of you that don't know what exactly the Bureau is, it's essentially this thing that you're required to do here at ASU, where it's essentially a 9 to 5. You don't get paid for it. And, you sit around for 8-9 hours and
only work.
It's as great as it sounds.
Don't play on Twitter or anything.
It's absolutely as great as it sounds. Does my audio sound good, guys?
Yeah, it does.
You sound great.
Okay, so I guess
in all honesty, though,
seriously,
I would love to produce a story, but my sources aren't getting back to me.
Blake, you sound as good as you look.
Oh, that's fantastic. So a 10 out of 10. Well, guys, we have some potential good news
accurate.
in a few minutes, you know, assuming that someone sees a DM on Twitter. We're going to be having a caller call into our show for an interview. We're going to keep it on the down low until then, unless you follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_. You already know who's going to be calling them. But before we wait for this call-in, I do have some news I would like to share with our viewers and with our audience. So I have some good news.
That's the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. I have some good news and I have some bad news. Who here would like... What news would you guys like to hear first?
Is there an in-between news?
There could be.
I already know what the bad news is, so give us the bad news.
All right, boys, I'll give you the bad news. Unfortunately, the bad news is I lied to America last week. I lied to our fans, and I lied to you guys.
Oh, no!
I'm a liar.
You're a liar.
Wow. Last week I came on the show and said next week is going to be our 4th and final award show. Well, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, that is no longer happening.
Oh, darn tootin'.
But the award show will be in 2 weeks now. In 2 weeks.
Happy music, Brady.
Which, by the
happy
way,
music.
If you haven't voted already in the Harris Highlights Awards, go to our Twitter at the HHShow_. There's like a link somewhere right there where you can vote. And the link in the description of this video, you can vote. Make sure to vote. We'll talk about it later. The good news, guys. The good news.
Oh, good
I got an actual full-time job.
Oh, yay!
And I'm going to
He's leaving!
His room or what?
Welcome to the Josh Schaefer Highlight Show.
Conference in downtown LA next week. I'll be working for SB Nation full-time, so a
Yay.
full-time job. So I'm going to be gone next week, guys, but I think there is still going to be a show, right? Am I correct?
Oh, next week's show does not...
Who the hell cares?
Next week's show does not count for me hosting, by the way.
Well, maybe I get to host it since you're hosting a different show.
Yeah, I don't think that's the game we're playing, Lyle.
Fight to the death.
Fight to the death. I'm allowed to bring a knife.
How about we have our own version of The Bachelor?
Oh.
I like it. And right there, 710, there's our caller. So yeah, next week, guys, I won't be here. I think these guys might be doing a show. We'll have to wait and see. But Yeah, so that's the news. We got a full-time job and looking forward to it. So if you're in downtown LA near the DoubleTree Inn, let me know. And we can meet up there at the DoubleTree. So really looking forward to that. So while Brady gets the call, Brady will be good to go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have some exciting news. Joining us this week, the starting running back for the Buffalo Bulls, number 26, Jaret Patterson. Jaret, thank you so much for calling in. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
No worries, my man. Now, first question I want to throw your way. Now, obviously, whenever anyone hears your name, they immediately think of what you did at the end of the year, 298 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Is there any part of you that's just a tad bit upset you were 2 yards shy of 300? Does that kind of like haunt you a bit, or are you still happy you got the 298?
I really didn't even know how many yards I had at that game until I came to the sideline, and actually a police officer told me how many yards I had, and I was just saying, wow, that's crazy, that's insane. Like, I felt like I was in a video game or something like that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as we get the win, and I hope my team get the win. That's really all that matters to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you finished with 298 yards and 6 touchdowns. Going back your entire playing career, like going back to high school, going back to when you were a kid, did you ever have a game where you scored that many touchdowns, or do you have a game where you ever even came close to that?
I scored. I think I scored 4 my senior year of high school, so like 2 away. But no, I never experienced nothing quite like that, maybe. But that was definitely a great feeling, and yeah, it was just a great feeling for it to be a senior that day, just send the seniors off the right way.
So Jaret, we've had some players come on the show, and one thing that we like to ask them is what type of unique environments have you been able to play in? And coming from the MAC, I want to know what's the most unique environment you've had a chance to play in some good old MACtion.
Good old MACtion. I have to say I like Miami, Ohio was a good little environment game. Toledo, always playing at Toledo is a good game, good environment. Also playing like in Western Michigan Stadium. They have a nice stadium also.
So Jaret, I want to kind of go back to those couple games against Toledo and Bowling Green where you just absolutely popped off. You had 10 touchdowns combined in those 2 games. When you're having games like that, does every hole you're hitting just feel like it's wide open, or how does that kind of go?
Yeah, definitely. Got to give the credit to the big guys up front, man. They do a great job. Last season, every week, they was getting it done up front. And that's why, they were one of the top, offensive line users in the nation, if not the best. So definitely got to give credit to the guys up front.
Now, I know a lot of players out there, they kind of like to stay away from, like, rankings, like numbers, preseason stuff. Now, I know a month ago they came out with, like, the way too early 2020 Heisman odds. And I know a bunch of players, they'll come out and they'll say, I don't like to look at those numbers. They don't mean anything to me. I know you were loving it. I was seeing it all over your Twitter and Instagram and everything. You came in and you were the 6th. They gave you the 6th best odds in regards to running back for next season. Now, that's a high honor, the 6th best. Do you see that? And do you think, I got the 6th best odds. I think that's fantastic. I go to Buffalo. Or do you see that and go, man, it's 50-1 odds. I feel kind of disrespected. I should be a lot higher. Do you use that as motivation going into your year next year?
Oh yeah, definitely. Me being a guy, that never, being always say he was undersized, wasn't big enough. I always have that chip on my shoulder, even if I didn't have that, have that honor to be considered even in the Heisman, that's definitely a great honor. But even without that, I still have a chip on my shoulder, like I still do right now. I still got something to prove to myself, even to this whole nation, that I'm the best.
I like it. So we turned to like Twitter and YouTube. We had some of our fans throw out some questions. We have a few that come from our fans. The first one, and I guess the one that everyone kind of wants to know, is there a current NFL running back that you kind of compare yourself to or that you like to model your game after?
Maybe I'm a big Barry Sanders guy. I love Barry Sanders. I like Darren Sproles. I like Devin Singletary, the back that plays for the Buffalo Bills. It's just so many. There's so many great backs I watch. I can't even name really one because that's maybe all the greats. To see what I can take from their game and to see how my game, I differ from there. So, any other great backs, I studied them.
And that's a good one to compare to one of the all-time greats. One of the other popular questions was, what led to you landing at Buffalo? Were they your first choice kind of in the recruiting process? Were there other schools, in contention? Or what was it about Buffalo that really sold you as a football program?
Buffalo gave me an opportunity of a lifetime. Me and my twin brother, he was highly recruited coming out of high school. I really wasn't. And Buffalo offered both of us. We always want to go to the same college together and play Division I football, together. So, we decided to go to University of Buffalo. We just felt like it was right to make the right move. I had a high school coach that was a Buffalo alum. He played when they won the MAC championship back in '08. And then he started just introducing us, to the history of Buffalo, introducing me to Brandon Oliver, Khalil Mack, James Starks, and I just fell in love with it then and there.
So speaking of, you said Buffalo alum and also the Mac, a Buffalo alum is Khalil Mack. Have you experienced anything with him, or have you been around him at all, or has he come back to Buffalo at all your time there?
Yeah, definitely. While his brother just graduated this year, Ladarius Mack. He always used to come, summertime, work out with us, to tell us how, the NFL is, just tell us, just what it really means to grind, just giving us advice. But yeah, definitely he always comes up here, in the summertime and work out.
And our final question comes from Nicholas O'Connor, and he says, one, how's the atmosphere like at Buffalo for those people that can't really watch, a Buffalo game on TV or really have no idea what the experience is like? And two, what are you expecting for your team next year in 2020?
Well, the atmosphere, is great. Buffalo fans, they love sports around here. This is a blue collar town. A very hardworking town. City. If I can't really explain it. Once you come up here, I feel like you'll fall in love with it. And just next year we just MAC championship. That's what we really really want. And right now we just stand down and just working until we achieve our goals.
You were the first freshman in school history to rush for 1,000 yards. Was that a point of emphasis for you coming into Buffalo, or was that something that just sort of happened and progressed throughout the year?
That's just something that happened. My mindset was I just coming in as a freshman. I just wanted to come in and contribute any way I could. And and when I got the opportunities, I just took advantage of it, and that's really it.
Well, Jaret, you talked about coming into Buffalo and how much you loved it, but when the time eventually comes that you're going to have to leave, what is the kind of legacy that you want to leave on that program?
I really want to leave a huge legacy, not just for myself, but other guys that come after me, just saying that's the guy that set a standard, and that's the guy that we're trying to set even a better standard when we leave. I just want people to, when I leave, just to really, consider like other, I guess, MAC schools. You can really ball out anywhere, and get your name out there. And I feel like Buffalo is definitely one of those spots.
I don't want to backtrack, but I do want to ask you about your brother. You both come into the program and you both immediately have an impact as freshmen and then as sophomores. You guys are both two big-time players in the program. How competitive are you guys with each other, especially with him being on defense and you being on offense? Do you guys come together at all during practice?
Yeah, definitely. We're very competitive. Seeing him on defense, on the other side of the ball, makes me want to go even harder, and that's just my verse. He brings the best out of me, and I bring the best out of him, and it's just a healthy competition, and it's just a blessing that we're in this position.
All right, Jared, two final questions for you. The first one, what's game day like for you? Do you have any kind of fun routines? Like we've had like guys in the past where like they have like certain meals, they have like a certain playlist. For you, is there anything that you like specifically like to do on game day? And number two, for the 2020 season, what is your number one goal heading into the year?
No really special, routine, pregame meal, I like to really start off, calm, like with some R&B. Then work my way up with, to some, I guess, hip hop during like as I get closer to game day. But I really like to just get focused and locked in, when pregame dinner comes. And my goal, probably like what I said before, I really want to help this program take the next step and win a MAC championship.
Well, Jaret, once again, we really appreciate you calling in. We really appreciate your time. Best of luck next season for you. Best of luck for your team next season. And I know 1,800 yards, 19 touchdowns last year. I know you can top that. So again, best of luck. Best of luck for your team. And we really appreciate you taking the time to call into our show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good one, my man.
You were saying.
All right, guys, so that was Jaret Patterson. Again, for those of you that didn't follow along with the MAC too well, he was one of the more underrated running backs in all of college football last season. Rushed for 1,800 yards, which was fifth most in the FBS, had 19 rushing touchdowns. Now, granted, he had 6 of those in one game, so that really helped out, but he was 8th in the country with 19 rushing touchdowns, 312 rushing attempts, guys, so he was running the ball out. And the crazy thing is Buffalo has a 2 running back committee. They have another running back, I believe Kevin Marks, who had like 10 or something touchdowns, who had a bunch of carries and yards. So he did this while splitting a ton of carries. If he would have gotten 50 or 60 more carries, he could have been number 1 in both these categories.
Now listen to this stat too. His senior year of high school, he had a game where he had 558 all-purpose yards, 282 rushing yards.
Is that good?
54 receiving, 124 kickoff return yards, and a 98-yard interception return for a touchdown.
Buffalo, very, very under the radar, has produced a lot of really good offensive players the last couple of years with Tyree Jackson and Anthony Johnson, and now a guy like Patterson. They're a force to be reckoned with in the MAC.
Yeah, and not only that, I think Lyle's right. They do kind of fly under the radar, but they've had a couple of really good seasons. These last 2 years, they've been a pretty good team, and I do think a lot of it has to do with Jaret and his twin brother James kind of coming in, and they both made immediate impacts as freshmen. They both played in every game. They're both starters this year, and of course in a two running back system, and he carries the ball for over 2,000 yards. But yeah, they had 10 wins last year. They only had 8 this year. They finished 8-5. Those are 2 pretty good seasons, especially considering that Buffalo didn't. I think it speaks more volumes to the fact that they didn't win the MAC and had an 8-win season and had a 10-win season last year. So I think they're a pretty good team. I think they're going to be good next year, and obviously we're going to have to keep an eye on him, both in obviously the 6th best Heisman odds for running backs.
Yeah.
The highest power or non-Power 5 player as well, I believe.
Yeah, highest. I think he's second highest non-Power 5. He's behind the Memphis running back, who I think is just ahead of him, but I believe he's one of 2 non-Power 5 guys that cracked the top 25 or something. So he's got good odds. Again, if he puts up the numbers, he'll be in contention. It's just if Buffalo can win 9 to 10 games, that's what he's going to need. But moving on now, guys, we might have an interview later in the show in about 20 minutes. Still waiting to hear back about that. But Brady's like, what? Because we have lots of interviews, guys, lots of college football prospects that are coming up. You definitely don't want to miss that. Follow along on Twitter at the @HHShow_. Let's talk some news, guys. We had about a month and a half hiatus, so a lot of coaching changes happened. A lot of people entered the transfer portal. They were in there for a bit, and then they got out of the transfer portal, some happening today and yesterday. But let's get into the latest coaching news, and I don't think there's anyone else I'd rather start with, guys, than good old Lane Kiffin.
I thought you were going with the other one.
Good old Lane Kiffin, guys. Going to Ole Miss to be the new head coach, leaves FAU. I don't even know what to think. I don't even know where to start. I'm excited to hear what Josh has to say about this because Josh is the biggest Lane Kiffin fan out of all of us. So he goes from FAU. He's now going to be at Ole Miss. He's going to be in the SEC. And Josh, what can we expect with good old Lane Kiffin back in the SEC, leading a team to victory?
Oh,
Kiffin's
man.
Crimson Corner.
The Lane train is leaving the station, baby. He's back in a Power 5. He's back in the SEC. A couple Conference USA championships the last few years. I'm excited to see what Lane's going to do. I think that FAU was a really good fit for him, and I think that when people saw that he was going to FAU from Alabama as the OC, I think a lot of people thought, what are you doing? You're going to a smaller program. Well, it paid off. Won a couple championships, and I think it was a really good stepping stone for him. So, Hugh Freeze is done, and he gets a chance to come in here and get back to Power 5, get back to the SEC, and I think Lane's a good recruiter. I think maybe he's not going to have a great year to start. I think they'll probably go somewhere. I could realistically see, and then here's another person we're going to get to, so a little hint. I think he and Mike Leach both go probably 6-6 in their first year. But I think they'll be successful in the long run. I think both of them are going to have some exciting teams to watch, and I feel like Lane's got something in his back pocket. So I'm waiting to see what he's gonna pull off in the SEC. I'm excited.
With most of these coaches, I think it's usually fair to judge them and what they've done when it's about year 3 or 4. So, yeah, I think Josh is absolutely right. Is Lane Kiffin going to go out and win 10 games in the SEC his first year at Ole Miss? Probably not. Those expectations might be a little bit high, but I think in 3 or 4 years, because like Josh talked about, he certainly knows how to recruit. He certainly knows how to fire up his players. The SEC is certainly competitive, but who's to say in a couple of years he can't get Ole Miss back to relevancy, because for a few years they were playing really, really well in that conference.
Does the SEC West have the greatest combination of coaches in all of college football? Yes or yes?
Hands down.
Yes or yes? I'm sorry, let's rephrase that. The most entertaining, over-the-top characters of coaches in college football.
I knew what you meant by that, is why I said yes.
Yes, I say absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Leach, Kiffin, Ed O, Nick Saban. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin, I mean, we saw, I feel like it went so under the radar and it was kind of underappreciated what he did at FAU. I mean, I don't have what the year-by-year numbers were before he got there, but they weren't that good, and he pretty much turned them into a 9, 10, 11-win team. So he was essentially doubling their wins, giving them bowl wins. I don't think they'd ever had a bowl victory. I'm not entirely sure before he got there. So he did a great job when he was at Florida Atlantic, and I think he's going to do a good job with Ole Miss. I like what Lyle said. I like how he said something along the lines of we have to give him 3 to 4 years before we can see how exactly good of a job they're doing. So we're going to have to give Lane some time, but Ole Miss, they're going to have a good recruiting class. They have a really good starting quarterback next year that was the best freshman quarterback in the SEC this past year. Sorry, Brady, it wasn't Bo Nix, unfortunately, but I really like the move for Lane Kiffin, and he wants me to throw it back to him. So Brady, I just tossed it your way.
Well, one of the things we see all the time is we see coaches make that jump from a smaller program to a bigger program, but it's not a lot of the time you see a guy like Lane Kiffin go from Tennessee, USC to a small program back up top. So I think you give him 2 years to see how he does. I wouldn't say 2 years is a good judgment period for him, but I think he could make a quick turnaround in as little as 2 years because he's been at that big time level already.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if you're listening to the show right now, make sure to go to Twitter at the HHShow_. Tweet at us what new coach you're looking forward to seeing most next year in their first year. I'm going to go through some of the replies right now. Caleb Rosenblum says the Lane Train, sports by JR, Mike Leach in the SEC, Saquon Vids, the Air Raid coming to the SEC with Mike Leach, good old Andrew Koster, Mike Norvell at Florida State, and Jack Bellar, or Beller, I'm not entirely sure. He thinks it's going to be interesting to watch Dave at Baylor next year. Others that say are Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach.
You didn't say his last name because you don't know how to pronounce it, do you?
Well, I didn't want to butcher. I'm going to go Aranda, or what is that? Or yeah, Aranda, Dave Aranda. I'm going to be honest, I didn't even hear Baylor got a new coach. So
Dave Aranda.
Dave Aranda. Yep. So if one of our interns wants to Google where Dave Aranda came, because for whatever reason...
He was the defensive coordinator at LSU.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. Name just didn't sound familiar with me.
Yeah.
Name didn't sound familiar with me. All right, guys, the next one on the list that I wrote down in our text notes today, this one, I mean, Lane Kiffin's probably the most exciting, but I think this is the one you're looking forward to seeing most, and that's Mike Leach going to Mississippi State. Now, this was kind of... It came from left field for me because I thought it came out a few weeks prior and was saying he's going to stay at Washington State. I thought he recently got some contract extension. He thought he was going to stay there. Then all of a sudden, yeah, he's going to Mississippi State. And later that day, he was already at Mississippi State on campus, giving a pep talk to the football team. So the deal happened quickly. It came out of nowhere. He's now in the SEC, the air raid offense going to Mississippi State. We've seen what he's done at Texas Tech. We've seen what he's done at Washington State. He's now bringing the talents to Mississippi State with now looks like KJ Costello. Is this a good move for Mississippi State moving forward? I mean, they're going to have a lot of offense, that's for sure. It's a matter of, if their defense is somewhat decent, I'm sure they'll be fine. But Mike Leach, I hope they're ready for his interviews because that's the best part about it.
I think that's the whole reason they hired him.
Probably true.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great hire for Mississippi State. When it first came out, I don't know. I was curious to see logistically, like, what, from a business standpoint for Mike Leach, what the differences were going to be. And obviously, I think there's going to be more money backing the football program in the SEC. But in terms of competitiveness, that's where I was a little hesitant to say it was a great job for Leach, because I thought that he did a pretty good job at Washington State the past few years, and obviously he always goes out and gets his grad transfer quarterback, and he's just incredible, and they put up 1,000 points a game. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he's going to do at Mississippi State. I think it's a good hire. I think it's a good move, and especially if he goes out and gets KJ Costello. We were talking about this before we came in here, but KJ Costello, I think it's a good move for him too, because now you're thinking, all right, I can go transfer and play in the SEC next year, and I can play for Mike Leach, and I can throw the ball 100 times a game.
Yes.
I'm throwing for 300 yards plus every night.
Yeah, I was going to say last year he had a 1,038 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He has the chance to do that in 1 or 2 games this upcoming year playing.
He did
under
get
Mike
hurt,
Leach.
but still, yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying.
Stanford wasn't good.
I'm just saying in 2 games, those
Yeah.
are the numbers he's likely going to be putting up.
Costello's a guy that a lot of people had some high regards for and think his upside is fairly substantial in terms of an NFL quarterback. And if he's going to play under a guy like Mike Leach, I think that's giving him a chance to be really, really good. Now, granted, for both Mike Leach and for KJ Costello, they're not just going to march down the field the way they did against some of these Pac-12 teams. They're going to be going up against some real defenses. But I think it's a great move for both of them. And in terms of Mike Leach, I'm really excited to see what he can do. Because here's the thing. I'll make the argument that of every Power 5 school, Washington State might be the single hardest place to recruit in the Power 5. I mean, you are in the middle of nowhere. It's not good weather. People love the football team, don't get me wrong, but I mean, some of the factors.
It's Pullman, Washington. You know, I'm going to Google Pullman, Washington, and see what comes up.
It's not around anything. It's around Moscow, Idaho.
Oh.
I mean, it is a tough place to recruit, and yet Mike Leach found success there with his grad transfer quarterbacks, with his 3 stars and junior college transfer guys, and he found success. So if he can go to the SEC now and get some better recruits, a guy like Costello, and then he goes up against some better competition too, I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't think he quite just marches down the field the way he used to, but I still think he finds a way to have success because he's such a great offensive mind.
So I Googled Pullman, Washington, and the first photo that came up is a photo of hills, and
it's called the Palouse.
The next photo is a photo of a empty street that looks like it has no signals, because I don't think they have signals in Pullman. Do they have electricity there yet?
It's a one-stoplight city.
Do they have electricity there yet?
They do.
And I'm going through these photos, and they have some windmills, they have trees, and wow. What's your pitch? I mean, Lyle, you've been to Pullman. If you had your life on the line and you knew how to sell me to go move to Pullman, what would you do?
Well, it is a fun campus, I'll say that.
All right.
People do love the football team, for granted being as far away from civilization as it is. And the fact that, I'm sure they had a good coaching staff. Leach, if you're a quarterback especially, and Leach says, look what I've done with all these guys I brought in. Luke Falk's success, Gardner Minshew's success, Anthony Gordon's success. Like, I can make you a really good quarterback. At least if you're a quarterback or an offensive recruit, I think there's a pitch. But in terms of it's a great town and all that, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know what you pitch for Pullman, other than I think people really do love the school.
See, I think a lot of people do like the town too, right? It's just, and it's nice. There's just nothing
It's
around.
very isolated.
Right. Well, people do not live there. It is, when people say a college town when regarding a school city, Pullman, Washington is a college town. There is nothing to do outside that city. You have to go to Moscow basically to do anything.
So when I first saw this move, my first thought was, and I actually texted you guys, this is a lateral move. I thought this was a very lateral move for Mike Leach, but then you look more about it, and you look more into it, there is a difference between the SEC and the Pac-12. Money-wise, recruiting-wise, hell, like you said a minute ago, location-wise as well. You're not stuck in Pullman, Washington.
And plus the players get paid more.
Yeah, that's true. The salary cap in the SEC is much higher than that of the Pac-12. Larry Scott bump up the Pac-12 salary cap. But the thing that I saw was
Pullman has a higher population, or has a larger population than Starkville, Mississippi.
Really? Mm-hmm. But what's the closest major city to Starkville, Mississippi? You're going to have bigger cities closer proximity.
Probably.
But again, recruits go to Mississippi State for a reason. I mean, like let's not forget, a few years ago, Dak and them were number one when the first rankings came out. Yeah, they didn't win, but you know what? They were competitive, and they were putting together one heck of a season, and they had some real recruits. So
it's right near Philly. It's right near Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Oh, right.
Mississippi State,
Home of the cream
Washington
cheese.
State. I'm going to see who has a better I'm Schmacked video.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I really don't know if Starkville is closer to some bigger cities. Maybe Birmingham, Alabama, but that's a whole state away.
So if it's taking this long to figure it out, it very well could be a lateral move for Mike Leach. But one of the big questions I have to ask now is, Mike Leach was asked this in a press conference at Washington State this past year, is of the teams in your conference, which mascot would win in a fight? So now you switch over to the SEC. Mike Leach gets asked what mascot wins in a fight. So
a volunteer.
Well, I'm the expert on this subject.
Of course you are, Lyle.
He's a cute, good boy.
You're sitting this one out, Lyle. It's Alabama. It's an elephant. Come on.
I don't know, Tiger?
I mean,
LSU?
there is a gator, an alligator. Have you seen alligators when they haul?
Yeah, but
Now the question is, what's the difference between the Auburn Tiger and the LSU Tiger? Who would have the advantage?
Come on, LSU.
So during the national championship this past year, they played a video during the game where they interviewed players from each team, and they asked, what's the difference between each school's Tigers? And an LSU player, I think it was Joe Burrow, said it was a great answer, was ours is an actual living tiger.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to take LSU with the money line in that one. The next one we want to talk about is Mike Norvell. Now, I think this one was pretty much kind of already official when we did our last show, but I don't think we really went into full detail on it. So we saw what he did at Memphis. I mean, he turned that program into one of the best non-Power 5 schools in the country, arguably. Now he takes his talent to Florida State. Florida State, ever since Jimbo Fisher left, even I guess in the final kind of Jimbo Fisher years, things were kind of just on the downfall after they won in 2013. He takes over a tough program there in Florida State. Willie Taggart kind of butchered that program, to say the least, and all the stuff that's coming out about how he was there, not so good. Mike Norvell, he seems like he's been a great coach everywhere he's gone. He's only 38 years old. He goes into a very, very tough and difficult situation. What are your guys' expectations for Mike Norvell in Florida State? Now, obviously, again, as Lyle pointed out earlier, it's going to be really tough for him to walk in there this year, win 10 games. It's going to be tough with that situation. But, 2 to 3 years, he has a chance to turn this program around. And what do you think he's going to do there in the beautiful, beautiful, sunshiny state of Florida?
So it's Florida State, and I think that Florida State is in a similar boat to USC. I think USC is a better program than Florida State. I also think that USC has, at the moment, a much higher upside than Florida State does. But I do want, the reason I compare the two of them is because I think that when it comes to a lot of other programs in college football, I still think Florida State's going to get its recruits. And that's why I kind of compare the two. And the reason why I say that is Florida State is going to get its recruits. It's going to be competitive in a lot of games, but I don't think they win more than 7. They'll win 6 or 7 games, but you'll see a little bit of life from that Florida State offense. You'll see some, I guess, year-to-year momentum coming back to the program, and I think that Mike Norvell will eventually have success at Florida State. I mean, he's an offensive genius, and he showed that a couple years back when he was at ASU. Side note, I saw a lot of people say this. Pretty sure he was wearing an ASU tie when he had his introduction press conference. That's what a lot of people were saying.
It was the closest thing he had at the time. He's like, I got this. It's red and gold enough.
Yeah, and I don't think he said anything about it, but a lot of people were saying that they thought it was the same ASU tie that all the players used to wear in their photos.
They
and stuff.
actually, on the broadcast of the ASU Florida State bowl game, Mike Norvell was on the broadcast, and they brought him into the booth for a little bit.
Yes,
which was really cool because he was actually able to talk about both schools and both sides, and was really cool to see that.
Yeah, I think he's going to put together a good offense, and I think you're going to see a lot of improvement in the team and the program. And I think in the long run he's going to do well.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a great coach.
Yes, he's a really good coach. He's a really young coach, like you said. In his 4 years at Memphis, 8-5, 10-3, 8-6, 12-2. I mean, this guy wins games, and he certainly knows how to recruit. He certainly knows how to put together an offense. I mean, very low key. Some of these Todd Graham assistants for a long time have gone on to do some really good things between Norvell, Chip Long. There's been a lot of them. But for Norvell, I mean, this is his first, I don't want to slander Memphis or anything because they're a good program, but the fact that Norvell is now going to such a high-powered program like Florida State with a chance to thrive in a conference like the ACC, this is his real kind of chance to make a big break for himself and show who he is as a head coach. And to be honest, I think 2 or 3 years down the road, he's got a chance to turn Florida State back into at least close to what it was when they were competing for national titles. I think they have a chance to compete for some ACC titles, and I think they have a chance to put themselves back in a national conversation in a couple of years.
Listen to this. This is the list of Todd Graham's assistants that have gone on to become head coaches. Gus Malzahn at Arkansas State and Auburn, Chad Morris from SMU and Arkansas, David Beatty from Kansas, Mike Norvell, Major Applewhite from Houston, Jay Norvell at Nevada, Billy Napier, who's I think done a pretty good job at Louisiana for the most part. He was good at ASU. Chris Ball at NAU, Chip Lindsey from Troy, and Jake Spavital from Texas State. Those are all current head coaches that were assistant coaches under Todd Graham in the last 8 years.
Yeah, a lot of good guys. And like I said, the other guy...
You said Jay Norvell as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy I said was Chip Long. I mean, he hasn't had a head coaching job, but I mean, he kind of picked up Notre Dame's offense when he was the offensive coordinator there for a couple of years. So yeah, a lot of head coaches, a lot of good assistant coaches. I mean, and Norvell's just one of many on that list.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting to see what he can do at Florida State if he's able to turn them around. Speaking of turning programs around, but for the worst, that's Willie Taggart. So he takes Lane Kiffin's old job at FAU. Now, guys, Willie Taggart, I'm looking at his coaching career. In his 10 years as a coach, he's under 500 for his career. He's 56-62. He was at Western Kentucky starting in 2010, went 2 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins. Okay, decent. Went to South Florida, won 2 wins, 4 wins, 8 wins. Then he had that great year in 2016 where South Florida went 10-2. Goes over to Oregon, goes 7-5, gets fired after 1 year, goes to Florida State, goes 5-7, then goes 4-5. He gets fired mid-season. Willie Taggart, he was kind of like the hottest name on the coaching market a few seasons ago after that year at South Florida. It obviously didn't go great at Oregon. There was lawsuits that came out. There was a whole bunch of players that came out and have been talking poorly of him. It seems like every person associated with Oregon hates him. MJ hates him. My cousin Pete, who went to Oregon 10 years ago, that's a diehard football fan.
Who's MJ again?
Oh, funny. My cousin Pete, again, this guy knows his stuff about Oregon football.
Sorry, MJ.
He hates Willie Taggart. We were talking about it at Christmas. He hates him.
John is not a fan either.
So, yeah, good old Johnny
John.
Tsunami. He's not a fan. So everyone hates him. And now it seems like anyone associated with Florida State, they all hate him as well. So he's just gone to these programs. Everyone hates him. He now goes to Florida Atlantic. He's taken over what Lane Kiffin did. And I guess we'll have to wait and see in a year or two if some future Owls hate Willie Taggart there.
Our intern Brett's actually an Oregon fan as well, and I think he hates Willie Taggart.
Intern, we have turned your mic on.
Yep.
This is your shining moment. What are your thoughts on Willie Taggart?
Yeah, no, I do indeed hate Willie Taggart.
Now, maybe ask why to get an Oregon fan's perspective.
Oh, he ruined the program for a strong year, and for a big program like Oregon, that's a big thing.
Well, there you go, and he did the same to Florida State, and guys, so again, it's Florida Atlantic. He has nothing to lose, but again, Lane Kiffin went there when they were nothing.
He's got some stuff to lose. A job.
Yeah, well, that is also true. But then again, the way these teams are dishing out these jobs, who knows? What to expect?
Good time for us to announce that we at the Harris Highlight Show are also looking for a new head coach. We will be conducting the search starting now.
So while
intern, collect the resumes.
So the roller coasters all just look different for these head coaches we've talked about. Lane Kiffin kind of went like this, and then Mike Norvell's kind of gone just up like this, and Willie Taggart, man, he's just going like this. He's going all the way down. And to be honest with you, if he does not succeed at FAU, this might be his last shot as a head coach because he couldn't win at Oregon. He couldn't win at Florida State. He had some bad years at Western Kentucky like Blake talked about. If he can't thrive at FAU, he might just be a coordinator for the rest of his life because this will be, the 5th school he can't win at? Well, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it'll be the 5th school he would prove to not be able to win at, and I think that's about as many chances as you're going to get.
If you take away his 2016 season, he's 46-60 as a head coach.
Yeah, that just doesn't cut it. I think this is his last shot.
Yeah. Last chance you. Except with coaches coming to Netflix. So, guys, is that all we have to say about Willie
Last chance
Taggart?
you and FAU's on it next year.
Would you compare him to a guy like Rich Rod, where he just comes in and then downward spirals the team?
Well, at least that was
But
kind of like
Rich Rod was-
it was a slow burn. It wasn't just immediate. Willie Taggart literally walked into Oregon, ruined it, dipped, walked into Florida State, ruined it, and then he dipped. At least how long was Rich Rodriguez there? He was there
At U of A?
Yeah, I mean,
he was at U of A for 6 seasons. So
Okay.
he
was there
started
slow
at
burn.
He started at West Virginia where he was 60-26.
Yeah, but he
and then he
also
was at
had-
Michigan for 3 years
He
where he
also
was
had Pat-
15-22.
He also had Pat White as a quarterback at West Virginia.
Yeah, and then at Arizona he was 43-35.
Yeah, I mean, look, Florida State before Taggart got there, okay, they were 7-6 the year before, but then 10-3, 10-3, 13-1, 14-0, 12-2. They were winning. They had one 7-win season, and then Taggart, not
So
great.
I think that's all I have to say about Willie Taggart. Florida Atlantic, good luck. We'll have to wait and see what he does there. Because Lane Kiffin, again, he turned it into a really good and respectable program. Can Willie Taggart curse yet another one? Now, all right, guys. Now, there are some other notable coaching ones, but we only have time for one more that we want to talk about. Maybe in a future show we can get to the other ones. But that is HTC, or
CTG, Blake.
HTC
I don't
is
know what I'm
what,
saying.
Blake?
I don't know what I'm saying.
Coach Todd
Head coach
Graham.
Todd Graham, former Arizona State coach. He was at Arizona State for 6 seasons. He last coached in 2017. Brady, do you have any music loaded up?
What do you want to hear?
Well, I mean, considering where he's going,
Give me a second.
can you play the
I'll-
the Macarena?
The
I'm kidding.
Macarena.
That's not Hawaiian.
It was a joke.
Oh, okay.
Because what else would you play when he's taken his talents to?
Waikiki Beach. Ha, that was funny.
To Honolulu?
Yeah.
All right, there's no music coming. So he's going to Hawaii to be their head coach.
And
I
he's
think
just going there to be real proud of their
This
guys.
is a fantastic move. Todd Graham in the beautiful, beautiful state of Hawaii. I'm really upset that Cole McDonald had to leave, because Cole McDonald under Todd Graham would have been quite the exciting thing to watch next year. But I'm sure Hawaii's going to have some quarterback that's going to come in and throw for 4,000 yards. All right, guys, man, I'm all over the place. Todd Graham, Hawaii. Is that a combo that's made for success?
Absolutely. You're trying to tell me that it is not going to be amazing to see this guy in a Hawaiian shirt and a lei every single game on the sideline? I could have imagined him doing that at ASU. I'm just really excited for him. I think it's going to be a cool experience for him in Hawaii. I think he's a pretty good coach, to be totally honest with you. I mean, he had a 10-win season at Tulsa. He had an 11-win season at Tulsa. He had another 10-win season at Tulsa. And then he had 2 10-win seasons at ASU. So he's had some... The thing about him is he's had some really good years, and he's had some really bad years. All the way from going 11-3 in 2008 at Tulsa to a year later going 5-7 at Tulsa. And then at ASU going 10-3, and then a year later going 6-7. So I get it. He didn't have some great years. His last year I thought was a lot better at ASU. He was only 7-6, but there was a lot of positive signs moving into the future. But bottom line, I think he'll do well at Hawaii. I'm proud of him, and I know he's just gonna go to Hawaii, and he's gonna be real proud of his guys.
Proud of our guys.
He's proud of their guys too.
So, like Josh said, when Todd Graham was at Tulsa, he had some sustained success. He had 3 10-plus win seasons. The thing about him at ASU was he started hot, and then he couldn't really sustain it. But
He wasn't hotter than we thought.
He really wasn't. But the fact that he's going to go to a program like Hawaii, it's a little bit smaller. The last 2 years have been a little bit better, certainly compared to what the rest of the decade looked like for him, I guess from 2011 to 2017. So the thing with Todd Graham is, again, he had sustained success at Tulsa. Let's see if he can go back to a program like Hawaii and really kind of hold that success, because I think he can, and I think that's a place where he can thrive.
You know, the thing about Todd Graham that I'm wondering most is, will he bring back like the Shakira microphone earpiece for play calling?
Yes.
I hope so. But the thing, look at this. You look at Todd Graham and his coaching career so far, is every job he's taken has come with an increase in living. Think about this. He started off his head coaching career at Rice. Then he went to Tulsa, Pittsburgh, Arizona State, and now he's at Hawaii.
Yep.
He's just living better life everywhere he goes.
I mean, Hawaii is like the best you can get. I mean, that's fantastic. The thing about Todd Graham is, I know we kind of gave him a bunch of crap his final few years at Arizona State.
You did. I did not.
That's also.
I
Yeah,
did not.
actually, Josh was the only one that didn't, so I'll give him that. He's coached 12 seasons. He's had winning seasons in 9 of them. Has a winning percentage of 61%. He's 5-4 in bowl games. He's not an elite head coach. He's not probably one of the top 10 best out there. But he's a good coach, and I think in Hawaii, Hawaii's coming off I think a 10 or 11 win season. I'm not going to be shocked if they keep on that. They win 10 or 11 this upcoming year, and it's Hawaii. Who doesn't want to go play in Hawaii?
Did you know that Todd Graham was actually a linebackers coach under Rich Rod at West Virginia?
I did not know that.
You guys know that? You just found that? There you go.
BK's interesting stat of the night.
Yeah.
Thank you, BK.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, that's the latest coaching moves. We have about 10 minutes. Let's get to some of the latest transfer portal. Guys,
Can I leave this music
every
going?
time I think of the transfer portal, I think of Danny Phantom. Okay.
Underrated Nickelodeon show.
Very underrated. But I always think of Danny Phantom, him just going through those portals, doing who knows what he's doing. For those 10, 11, 12-year-old listeners out there, Danny Phantom, that was a show before your time. So go on YouTube and watch some Danny Phantom. But let's talk about some of the transfer portal guys. And the one I want to get to first is Jaret King. Now, this whole Jaret King situation is kind of weird because he came out 4 games into the season last year and was like, I'm sitting out the rest of the year. I'm not hurt. I'm going to sit out the rest of the season, save a year of eligibility. Now, immediately everyone was saying, he's going to Oklahoma. He's going to be the next guy to go to Oklahoma, contend for the Heisman. Everyone was all over it. Then he came out and was like, no, I'm staying at Houston. I'm not going to leave. I want to be at Houston. We're just going nowhere this year. I want to come back next year when we have a better team, and I just want to lead them to a 10-win season, maybe contend for a New Year's Six. We'll have to wait and see. But it seemed like he was going to stay. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I don't even hear about this. I just see it on Instagram that he transfers to Miami. About a week or two ago, he just transfers to Miami, and so I guess he didn't believe in Houston. He broke his promise, and he's now going to play for Miami, where nothing can go wrong for the Miami Hurricanes. But this is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in college football over the last few seasons. Now, granted, he played at Houston, where he's kind of built for success there. But in 2018, 36 passing touchdowns. I'm going to get up his rushing touchdowns in a minute. But this was a guy, I think he had 50 total touchdowns in 2018. Had about, between 3,500 and 4,000 yards. He's a really good quarterback. And now he's going to Miami, which, again, it's not really hard to get an upgrade compared to what they've had the last few seasons, but I really like this move for Miami. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do there. And maybe, who knows, maybe he can have what it takes to lead Miami to a 7-win season, maybe. Maybe we can get frisky and say an 8-win season.
36 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing in 2018.
50 touchdowns right on the dot.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what we get here, because I think I do think that Miami has had some pretty good quarterbacks at least lined up in years past, so let's see if this one pays off for him. I do, however, think Jaret King is a little more proven than some of the other guys they've had, like N'Kosi Perry and Tate Martell. So
Tathan.
Tathan. So
how dare you say
we'll
Tate
see.
Martell's not experienced? They put him at receiver sometimes.
He's essentially Taysom Hill.
It's okay. Have you seen Tate Martell's girlfriend?
Yes, I have.
Ah.
I have a friend at Miami.
Ah.
Yeah.
I have a friend at
It's
Miami
not-
of Ohio.
It's not him or her, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I have.
Gosh.
The big one that I'm looking forward to, though, is Jamie Newman going from Wake Forest to Georgia.
This was an interesting one because I thought Jamie Newman, I saw a lot of pre-mocks and a lot of people had Jamie Newman entering the draft. So I thought Jamie Newman was going to enter the draft this upcoming season. Played at Wake Forest last year, so that's probably why no one really knew about him, except for Captain Rob. We need Captain Rob to give us insight on Jamie Newman and how he was as a quarterback. Threw for just under 3,000 yards last year, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, had a 61% completion percentage. I'm trying to get his rushing numbers up here, but ESPN's kind of all whack. Jamie Newman, guys, this is a guy that a lot of people are high on. Like, a lot of people, more than I thought. I remember kind of seeing some highlights here and there, and I was thinking, okay, he looks pretty decent, but he's at Wake Forest, whatever. But everyone is all over this move, saying that this is a complete upgrade over Jake Fromm, which, I mean, Lyle, I don't think that really takes much, but we'll talk about it in another show. But he goes to Georgia right now, and you have a Georgia team where arguably they're already a top 3, top 5 team in the country. For the most part, it's kind of hit or miss. Some people think, some people don't, but a lot of people think that this is an upgrade at the quarterback position over Jake Fromm. I like what I've seen out of Jamie Newman, 6'4", 230, so he's got good size. He goes to Georgia. I think this is a great move for the Bulldogs, and I think for Jamie Newman, he has a chance to be in the Heisman talks next year.
Yeah, 2,800 passing yards, and he had 574 rushing with 6 rushing touchdowns. So a decent rusher.
Yeah, people like this kid. Like Blake said, 6'4", 230. I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm, and he's going to a program that has recruits on recruits on recruits of the highest caliber at just about every position. So he's going to be put in a place where he can thrive. So I think this is a really good move for Georgia. I think they're getting a quarterback who can win them some football games. I think they're getting a quarterback who can really sling the football. And for Jamie Newman, like you said, he didn't enter the draft this year. He wanted that one more year. And I think he can take this senior year to kind of rise him to another level, because this is a guy who's got all the tools in the world to succeed, the height, the body size and the arm talent. He's just got to kind of put it all together and win some football games. Not that he didn't at Wake Forest, because Wake Forest had a really good season this year, but, win football games on a higher level.
Yeah,
I agree. And it's an interesting one, too, because, again, it's like you didn't really hear about him too much during the regular season, and all of a sudden he transfers, and everyone's like, man, this is a fantastic move for Georgia. He's such a great quarterback. I love this move. So, again, Georgia, my personal 2 cents, I think you're getting an upgrade at the quarterback position. I think Lyle agrees. Josh likes Jake Fromm. Now, There's
nothing to dislike him for.
I know. Lyle and I were talking. We have this hope that the Rams draft Jake Fromm this upcoming season.
I will take him.
Jared Goff goes down week 3.
I will take him.
And the rest of the season is led by Jake Fromm.
I will take him.
And if he proves us wrong, he proves us wrong. But we want to see Jake Fromm lead an NFL team, the LA Rams.
I will take him. I will take him right now. I will take him.
By the way, it's been a long time coming. Has officially been sponsored by State Farm.
Really?
Yes.
Speaking of which, how great was it that they redid the Jake from State Farm commercial at the Super Bowl yesterday? I don't know if you guys saw, but they redid it. It's the same commercial.
Oh, yeah.
They just switched whoever was on the phone on the other line.
Well, no, did you notice that the guy behind him was the same one who was wearing khakis the first time?
I didn't realize that.
I didn't see it.
I didn't realize that. All right, guys, one final one to get to very quickly. This is one that became official today, and that's Chase Bryce, who is well known for being the backup quarterback at Clemson behind Trevor Lawrence. Now, Chase Bryce, you could have stayed for another year and then gotten your shot in another year, because Trevor Lawrence is going to leave after this season. He opts to transfer. He goes to Duke. Guys, we didn't see really a whole lot of him this past season, 581 yards, 4 touchdowns. But again, for the most part, this was kind of like in garbage time when they were already up by 40 points. So it's up to kind of get a good evaluation on that. But Chase Bryce, he was a highly regarded prospect. 1
minute.
1 minute. We got 2 minutes. It's fine. We'll be able to wrap things up. We're the Harris Highlights Show, dang it. If we go 30 seconds over, by gosh, we'll go with 30 seconds over. All right, guys, quick roundup on Chase Bryce going to Duke.
Well, look, he had to come in and play in that Syracuse game in 2018 when Trevor Lawrence got hurt.
I forgot about that.
So, he wasn't great in that game. He was 7
He
for...
led them back from behind, too, in that game.
He was 7 for 13, 83 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. The numbers don't flash out at you, but he still had to win them the football game, and he still had to keep their perfect season alive, which he did. So he's got some experience under, a magnifying glass and a winning culture. So we'll see what he can do at Duke. I was a little surprised Clemson let him transfer in conference, but we'll see what he can do with a program like Duke.
And again, he wants to play now. So what, he's a sophomore. I don't think he wants to hang out for another year. I think he wants to try to get a couple of years of actually playing college football not behind Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I think it's totally warranted. Plus, Duke's produced some pretty decent quarterbacks over the past couple seasons too, and they've had a couple of decent teams too. So I think it's a pretty good move.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So, Chase Bryce, that wraps up this show. Man, guys, it seems like having an hour show, it's like...
I put that on you.
It's tough. Well, I was thinking off-season, an hour and a half seems kind of tough, but...
Nah, it's all right.
It's fine.
An hour's
Blake,
fine.
do you know the group of people we have here, and do you know how long they like to talk for?
That is also true.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know either. But that does wrap up this week's show of the Harris Highlight Show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the @HHShow_. If you want to vote for the Harris Highlights Awards, go to the link in the description below. Vote. Guys, we have over double the amount of votes we had last season. Keep voting, guys. Keep voting. The award show will be in 2 weeks. Not exactly sure if these guys are doing a show next week.
Oh, we are. Tune in. We're gonna make it nice and obscure. We're gonna go off the rails next week.
All right, so follow us on Twitter to keep up to date with that. There's gonna be a show next week. I'll be back home in Los Angeles. For Josh Schaefer, There we go. Lyle Goldstein, he's catching it. They're not falling out of their chairs this week. They're tossing something. Brady Klein over there. Okay, he didn't throw it, but I caught it. This has been Blake Harris from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. They'll see you guys next week. I'll see you guys in 2. Have a great week and a great month, everyone.